You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
We got lots to cover. We got a few email, like 4 or 5 questions here, ranging in how do you get your deadbeat dad's name off your kid's birth certificate to a more important matter. So I guess that's kind of important, too. It's good to scrub your life of dirt bags.
Then why am I still here?
Hey-o!
Ross.
Now, this is something new, so obviously you don't have to give us the full legal explanation. Just I wanted your thoughts on the story of Woodland Park. I kind of gave you the dry version of it. So mom in Woodland Park practices neo-paganism, which I know was a thing. It involves just basically early European lore or religious beliefs where, they do various acts and read cards and stuff like that for inspiration and decision-making and stuff. So she was at school with the kids, and I think it's a middle school, and they were playing with the cards. Now she's banned from the schools because they think she's a witch or something, I assume. And now she's claiming freedom of religion. And it says taking her fight to the federal level. She's filed a lawsuit against the district after being prohibited from there. Diverse beliefs, practices, and the religion has found itself in the center of a contentious debate. Is it really a religion? Where do you draw that line? I mean, if you're like, you can't undermine my Christian beliefs, my Catholic beliefs. I am a Mormon, all legitimate, but then you say suddenly, I'm a neo-paganism. They're, you're a neo-pagan. That's not real. Where's the line?
I don't know that that's where they're drawing the line. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
And maybe they are. It's not an area I practice, so I don't know. Do you know more details?
Really? You don't specialize in neo-paganism?
I mean, professionally, no. Professionally, no. The details that I want to know, what transpired when, you said she was doing some tarot cards or what just kind of playing
during a visit
games?
to Columbine Elementary School to have lunch with her kids, she conducted card reading. And the practice raised eyebrows among officials. As she delved into her oracle cards, she was approached by the principal and told to stop, and then eventually told she is now banned from the premises.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's something that happened between being told to stop and being banned from premises. That's the extra detail I'd like to know, because that may be the reason. Something in that moment of time may be why she's now banned from the school. They just went up to her and look, there are kids who are, or especially in the middle school, I mean, there are students who are behaving in ways that are absolutely 100% illegal. Forget, constitutional right, but I mean, just, maybe they're smoking pot in the bathroom, right? They're being asked to stop. Maybe they're not kicked out of school. Maybe they have to go home for a period of time. They're suspended. So they might have come up to her and just said, hey, can you stop doing this? Because we don't allow this. We don't allow people to smoke pot in the bathrooms. We don't allow certain things. We don't allow bullying. You can, verbal abuse. We have a freedom of expression, right?
Freedom of speech?
Freedom of speech, but that...
And we've seen that being tested right now,
that's
too.
That's right, on the national level. So, but that doesn't necessarily give you the right to then do something that is violative of somebody else's rights with your speech, for example.
With your religion.
Right. What is she doing with her cards? Was it, it may have made some people uncomfortable, and that alone may be protected, but was her conduct... I just don't know. And so you haven't spoken. No,
we don't know.
Okay.
We don't know the in-betweens. I understand what you're kind of insinuating. She could have gone nuts.
Oh, who knows? And I don't want to
infer anything. And maybe not. She said, okay, that's weird, but I'll put these away. Thank you. And then gets that.
And they said, and by the way, you can never come back. Right.
Or she could start throwing pagan curses on everybody, huh?
Well, I mean, the guy started growing horns out of his head. So, you do that to the principal, they'll kick you out.
It's really fascinating, though, just like, because I never thought about that. Who's to say what religion is real? And my case was, what if I'm a Rastafarian? I show up and hang out with the kids at lunch and fire up a big old spliffy. Huh? What about that? Is that a religion? But you said...
Well, going back to their,
position on smoking marijuana. But then, this dates back to before the legalization on a mass scale of marijuana. Some tried to use that as a guide, so that's why I use marijuana for my religion, and that never worked in the courts. Back then.
I know.
I don't know, I'll never come a long way, but... All right, well, cool. That's an interesting one. We'll keep followed there right here in our old 719 or whatever. Hang tight. Finish up. Get some more water in you.
I get water and coffee.
We'll get to a couple of the questions here coming up next. Faith with a question about how to get her son's name changed. And a similar story, still we'll say in that vein, with a guy who as his brother in jail, wants to get the paperwork to get power of attorney. Is that possible? How does that work? We're going to find out here next.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
So every time I go to a hotel, I'm like, yes, you have a room for me. The name's McDivitt.
Ooh, she would do it.
David McDivitt. She's like, can you please spell that for me? How is that? Mc what of it?
You should just do Divot, Mick.
McDivitt.
Let's see here. Do you have a favorite lawyer? Just a question on the side. No relation to any of our questions here today, but like in history, like Matlock, is he a good lawyer for reals? You got a favorite depiction of a lawyer?
No, we're talking about fictional lawyers?
Yeah.
Yeah. Probably.
Mine's Judge Dredd, Stallone. That's a guy that you really get behind, legally speaking.
Oh, that's a good one.
Thanks.
Atticus Finch, maybe?
Yeah, who is that?
Kill a Mockingbird.
Oh, wow. You're going old school fancy, huh? Trying to impress the ladies with that one or something? Trying to impress those readers?
Yeah. Anybody reads probably telling me, no, that's you got it wrong. I know. I'm pretty sure it was. Well,
think about it. Mull it over a bit. Let's get to a couple of our questions here today.
See, Gregory Peck played him in the movie too. I mean, it was.
Peck is he's a good man. Yeah. Maria checked in. So my brother's in jail, and I went to the courthouse and asked someone what paperwork I need to fill out to get power of attorney over him. He's an adult. I just want to make sure I fill out the right forms, mostly for his vehicle so he doesn't get screwed over later on. What does Maria do?
Well, she's doing the right thing so far, which is to identify that probably the best way to deal with certain types of property, certain assets that, this is her son?
Her brother.
Her brother has. So I don't know how long he's going to be incarcerated, I guess. Yeah, getting a power of attorney is a good idea to have. I think it would have been easier to do it before he went in.
I don't think you'd ever expect to go to jail.
Well, no.
I guess he could be at a trial.
Right, exactly. Who knows? But yeah, usually there's a period of time where you can button
up some of that stuff.
Exactly.
If you know things aren't going well for you.
I started thinking about that too, creating a service for people, a preparatory service for people who are going into prison, where it's you prepare them what to expect. You go through all of the documentation that they might want to fill out ahead of time.
I think there's a Will Ferrell movie called Scared Straight, just like that.
Is that really?
It is. It's not exactly serious, but
well, no, it's just Will Ferrell. But,
it's genius, actually. Well, and then kind of say, all right, here's what you need to do to button up all your financials.
Right. So getting a power of attorney, there are certain steps. There's a statutory form.
He has to be a willing participant first, first and foremost, right?
Yes, absolutely. You can't just kind of unilaterally just say, what, I'm going to designate myself.
My brother's locked up, I'm going to take over his life. Is that cool?
That's right. Now, there are if somebody's incapacitated mentally, for example, there are ways to do it, and you have to get a court order. In a situation like this, assuming you can reach him in jail periodically, you're going to need to get his notarized signature on this power of attorney as well. So there's a form that you can go. The state of Colorado has these forms online. You can just get a uniform power of attorney thing filled out, and then you kind of designate what it is that. So I'm picturing her situation. She may want to designate ahead of time, fill out the portion of the form that's saying, these are the things that I expect my brother to want me to have the ability to do on his behalf. And then get that form kind of pre-filled to her brother if it's not one of these kind of bilateral meetings that they can have together or face-to-face where they can talk and they can go through it together. That'd be the best way to do it, and then have a notary there to sign it. I just don't know how you get access to a notary when you're in jail. They probably have services for this. And so maybe she's able to pre-fill it, get it to the facility, and they can work with him to get it notarized, get it back to her, and then she can then use that as needed. And then you said there's a vehicle involved?
Yeah. I think that was the main thing. She wanted to make sure that he doesn't get screwed with his vehicle being out there.
Yeah, and I don't know what that means. Is it going to be repossessed? Do they want to sell it? Does she need the authority to be able to execute a sale?
Right.
I don't know. But yeah, the power of attorney is a great tool to allow. And it's a powerful thing. You've got to be careful when you give somebody a power of attorney.
And then once it's all said and done, is it easy to then assign his rights back to him?
Yeah,
just reverse the process. You got to file everything and do it again?
Well, it's somewhat formal. But yeah, I mean, you can be in writing to revoke the person's power of attorney. But these things do tend to stay in effect until they're somehow revoked. So
could you so if I have power of attorney over you, could I make yourself slap yourself? It's like, hey, I got your power of attorney. Hey, slap yourself, Mr. McDivitt.
Wasn't that the whole point of the show, Jackass?
think it was.
Really?
I think it was.
Steve-O.
Similar question. I assume it's the same type paperwork. Is Faith wants to legally change her son's name. His father is not in his life, but is on the birth certificate. How hard is this going to be? Is it going to be allowed to be changed? Is he going to? Do you have to start with the father if he's not a part of her life? He doesn't have any say, does he? I bet he does.
Oh,
though.
he does.
What?
Yes.
So let's say that's just, I don't even know the scenario, but let's say he's never been spent a day in this kid's life, has zero child support, no interaction, yet he knew he was going to have a kid and decided to go that way. He's still got rights?
He does.
What the hell?
Now, that doesn't mean she can't do this. Okay. There are steps that you have to take.
But he's going to eventually be in that loop somewhere,
yeah,
right?
He has to be. She has to take the appropriate steps to at least provide notice to him that she's going to court to try to affect this change. And, if he then, we get this served on him, so we know he got it, and then he doesn't appear, things become a little bit easier. She doesn't know where he is. There's another form that has to be filled out. There are forms, again, online to do this. And it also, a lot of it's going to depend on the age of the child, too. So different things for different ages. But there's a thing called notice by publication. And so you get a judge to sign off that you're going to be able to provide notice to the non-custodial parent that this hearing is scheduled and is a hearing for a name change. And then there are certain steps that you take in order to get this published, in the broad community, so that, and with the idea being that there's a really good chance this person just sees it, it's out there, or somebody sees it and then pokes them on the shoulder and says, "Hey, I think I saw your name in a publication." But, it's not, I would say, I think, if you've got a willing non-custodial parent, that's fine. Some guys get kind of hung up on the fact that there's a child out there with their last name and they're damn proud of it. Even if they have nothing to do with that kid. And it's horrible.
Plus, he could be a jerk. And just want to hold up the process. And say, no, what are you going to give me? How about give me $1,000?
That's right.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Man, that's just shocking to think that you can be so absent and such a rotten person and still have those rights.
Ross, I've seen it. I have seen it where there's a mom raising her son all by herself the entire time the son grows up. And pleading to be able to change that son's last name. Because at the time, there was a hope that the dad would be in the picture, and then the dad just disappears shortly after the baby's born. But just in the picture enough to just be a jerk, right? To just be a jerk,
just be a thorn in your side.
I don't know what's happening with Faith here.
She sends it out there. He's cool with it. It's zipped through. That's a cut and dry, right?
Fairly cut and dry.
And then the second, if you can't find the guy, how long of a process does that extend? Do you know?
Well, I don't have it in front of me, but I think the forms dictate how long that has to be out there for publication before you can then have the hearing.
Okay, it's almost like some of those property filings. You have to put it in the paper, and then once that's in the paper, the clock starts ticking.
Yep.
And then the worst case scenario, Faith, is, of course, that if he drags his heels, then he could have problems.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
And correct me if I'm wrong. I'm trying to make this as simple as possible for those listening there, Danny. Let's see. So you got your wife's parents had a son-in-law and their daughter kind of living with them on and off, right? They were in and out of the house for a couple of years?
Correct.
All right. And then he got into an accident. He does not have insurance. So now the lawyer for the folks that were part of the accident are now trying to see if they can take on his in-laws, your in-laws. Is it your parents or your in-laws then too?
My in-laws too.
So your in-laws, they're trying to suck on to their insurance to cover his accident. The accident was not in one of their cars, right? It was in his own vehicle?
Yeah, his own vehicle, his own deal. Had nothing to do with my in-laws.
Sure, but
they were collecting mail there. Yeah.
Right. So they were collecting mail at the house. They were in and out of the house. They weren't like living there constantly, but
that was their listed address.
Yeah.
And he's driving around.
And he's making a smirk. He's smiling like a lawyer.
Well,
Danny, that's not good.
Well, I don't like it when people drive around uninsured. I just don't. And he's an adult, and he's living in this house. So first of all, that lawyer for the person who got hurt, who was in that crash, is doing the right thing by trying to find money to help take care of this injured person. And so this is a classic example of what they call resident relative insurance coverage. Now, we're going to talk about it. Doesn't mean maybe there's an exclusion in this particular policy, but for the in-laws, they have a home. They have their own vehicles. They have insurance on their vehicles. If they allow relatives to live in the home with them, even adult relatives, so their daughter and their son-in-law, by extension, their daughter and son-in-law are typically covered by their own insurance policies on their vehicles. Unless there's an exclusion. And so it could be that you have an excluded driver. You might exclude your daughter. You might, in fact, exclude your son-in-law if you know maybe there's a reason he doesn't have insurance. Maybe he has a bad driving history. But the lawyer is doing the right thing. This is what we have to do on every one of our cases. We are out there combing, trying to find sources of recovery for our clients. It's a little different than them directly trying to sue your in-laws. Because what we're talking about is an insurance coverage issue. Now, the way that the law in Colorado works is if there is an insurance dispute and it's not resolved and it involves a car crash like this, you do have to sue the policy holder in order to then bring in the insurance. So this is not to say that they won't get sued at some point, but it's unlikely to be a lawsuit stating that they are somehow negligent. It would be some kind of coverage issue. Mm-hmm. But typically a lawsuit's going to be filed against the person who caused the crash, and then there will be a separate legal dispute, maybe try to get what they call declaratory judgment, which is to get a judge to say that this policy of the in-laws is in effect.
Now, the fact they were getting mail at the place, is that good or bad for the case? It's probably not good. If they weren't getting mail, would that then make it a little bit less likely to be able to prove they were living there?
Well, it depends on where else they were living. I mean, if this is one of those situations where they just come a couple of weeks a year, that's unlikely to pass muster. And this goes to this whole insurance dispute question. Because let me tell you something. There's a very good chance that the in-laws insurance company is going to want to try to say that the son-in-law is not covered, that he wasn't really a resident of that home. But what the lawyer's going to do is say, well, look, we've got evidence that he was receiving mail there. He was living, 9 months out of the year. This is really where he slept. He was telling people he lived here. Yeah, we've moved in with my wife's parents. Where else is he living? Where are they going when they're not there? Yeah. Why are they getting their mail there and not some other place? Is it because it's probably because they don't have a lease on another apartment or a home? It's probably because they don't own another residence. And maybe they're somewhat nomadic in their lifestyle right now, but they always come back. This is their core home. These are all factors that will play into an insurance question as to whether there is coverage. But the lawyer's doing the smart thing. So
for Danny, what do you think? Give me a percentage. Is it a 50-50 whether or not his in-laws will be on the foot for some kind of a bill, or their insurance rather? Is it 60-40? Where are we sitting, you think?
Well, look, based on what I know right now, it seems like they're more likely than not, if there is no exclusion in the policy, for the in-laws insurance to cover that vehicle. But again, there may be exclusion. Yeah. And
on the flip side, then, for those listening, how to circumvent this from ever happening to begin with? You got your daughter and her husband, who's not a good driver, moves into your house. What do you do right there to make sure he's not on your insurance, and you make note of the fact that you don't want any part of that?
Okay, be very clear with your own insurance company, with any insurance company that insures your home or your vehicles. Make it clear that you're excluding these specific people by name. Furthermore, if it's that bad that you know that they shouldn't be covered under your policy of insurance, make it very clear that they are not permitted. Make it clear to the son-in-law or to your daughter that they are not permitted to drive your vehicles either. And get that in writing, because there's another thing that can come up, which is more of a personal liability component, which is if you let somebody drive a vehicle and you have reason to know that they have a poor driving history, it increases your chances of being liable for then allowing somebody to drive one of your cars, and then if they cause a crash, it comes back on you.
Right. But who knew? Just having them live with you could also come back to bite you. Hey, well, Danny, the good thing here is, you know what the good thing is here, right?
What's that?
Danny is guaranteed the number one son-in-law.
That's right. Danny doesn't do this to his in-laws.
Danny, you're such a good boy, Danny. Well, good luck, man. And when this concludes, we'd love to hear the answer.
Right on. And I had one more question. So, past the insurance side of it, and I get that. If it's the law, it's the law. Is there anything else that we should do or have my in-laws do to avoid anything else from coming up out of this? Is there anything else that we could do to protect them now, or is what it is what it is, and we're kind of at that point? Because they wouldn't be able to physically go after any of their house or any money from them personally, correct?
Right. Well, this is where I'm getting at. If there was any reason to think that they allowed we wouldn't be talking about this if the son-in-law were driving their car. So presumably he's driving his own car.
Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
All right. And did they have reason to think he was a really bad driver? And could they have said, well, you shouldn't be parking here? They didn't give him access to the car. So it is very unlikely, and he's an adult, so it's very unlikely that they exercised any kind of control or permitted anything that then led to this bad conduct.
Correct.
So
yeah,
I don't
they
see
weren't
that.
aware of
Right.
driving records or any of that.
No, and I don't see that coming back on them personally. I really don't. This just sounds purely like an insurance coverage dispute. The insurance is either there or it's not. There may be a situation where they have to have their insurance is going to appear in court proceedings, whether it's just through motions practice, and the insurance company then has their own lawyers that do that. I really don't see a situation where your in-laws are going to need their own lawyer to defend their interests separate and apart from the insurance company. That's just based on what you've told me. That doesn't seem like something we're dealing with right here.
You got that going for you.
What'd you say?
Yeah, he's got that going for him.
Yeah, you do have that. Yeah. So there's a positive.
Definitely let us know how this concludes. When it concludes, it could be years, but we'll talk to you one day.
For sure, man.
All right, Danny. Thanks, buddy. Interesting. I never knew that was even a scenario. I understand, like, if someone's in your house under the homeowner's policy, something happens at the house, but I didn't realize that extends to cars.
Yeah.
Especially not your cars.
Oh, I mean, you're
Heads up to those who could be affected. Everyone has a jerk friend or a relative that you wouldn't want messing up your car, right?
Yeah, and we have no idea. And they're concerned, so it sounds like it might have been a pretty serious collision.
All right, well, let's take one more time out, then we're going to come back with just the last couple of questions. We got that one involving an ex-girlfriend. He's no longer on her lease. What was their lease? And now she won't let him come by and pick up his crap. But he's got, what's his...
I wish we could talk to him.
His smoking gun is... You want to talk to him? Also,
see if we can, yeah.
He does have an electric bill in his name. Does that give him any rights? So we'll get to that and wrap things up as we hang out, make a big difference.
You're listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM. Presented by McDivitt Law Firm.
Good, man. Sorry to hear your problem here. So, ex-girlfriend split up about a year ago. Landlord amended the lease, so your name is no longer on it. And she's not letting you get the rest of your crap and put you off every time you try to. But you say you still have your name on the electric bill. Any rights to the property? What can you do legally? Dave McDivitt, save Mr. X from this hell.
Mr. X, this is one of those situations I've been hearing about a lot in the news lately where people are drawing an analogy to a bank. You think the bank owes you money. Maybe the bank does owe you money. But you can't go rob the bank to get your money back.
Nope.
You still have to go through the appropriate legal channels. So it sounds like you don't have access to the apartment anymore. She has your stuff. What's
your stuff? What kind of stuff?
I need to know what kind of stuff this is.
Well, mostly it's just a sentimental wood stove. It's worth like $5,000.
Okay, a wood burning stove.
No, it's actually a stove made out of wood. It's it's old school. They used to make wood. I'm goofing with you.
And like some sentimental stuff, like irreplaceable stuff.
I understand that.
If it was just junk, I wouldn't care.
No, I understand that. Is that stove integrated now into? Is this a house or an apartment?
It's a house.
Okay, is that stove been integrated into the house?
No.
Okay.
No, it's out in the garage.
It's out in the garage. All right. Yeah. What is she?
It wasn't a clean break, was it, Mr. X?
No, it's like you're holding some control still. I don't understand.
It doesn't mean it. Do you have kids?
No, thank God no.
That's just I don't. But I don't understand that.
Thank God no.
I just don't get it. You don't have kids. Just let it go. Let these relationships go. Let you get your stuff, Mr. X. The fact that you're on the utility bill, I don't think that, or the electric bill, that just means you've got an obligation to keep paying. If she doesn't for the electricity.
I want you to shut off my power.
I'm nice about it too, but I think it's time to just cut the cord and turn off the juice.
Yeah,
turn off the juice. I'm with that. He doesn't have to continue to pay that, right? He can also say, "Hey, you cancel this. I'm no longer doing this."
Yeah,
and let her.
Yeah, you can try it. I mean, I would try to get my name off the bill too.
Now, what if is that?
Well, that's what
is-
will happen when I call for end of service.
Is it extortion if he calls her and says, "Hey, I'm going to turn off the power if you don't let me take my stove"?
I've tried that back and forth, and sometimes it works.
Don't admit to that. It might be extortion. Is it extortion?
I don't know, because I don't know the full context of the conversation. But
what about I've kidnapped your mother, and if you ever want to see her again, you better give me my stove? Is that extortion?
You know, here's what I would do on this. I would send her a letter notarized saying, "Listen, there's no need for me to be on the hook for the electrical bill, unless you have some kind of written agreement or some kind of agreement that's enforceable. Just say, so I'm going to be calling to do an end of service here, and you're going to need to put it into your name. And I plan to do this on September 1st or October 1st. So you have until then to switch it to your service." By the way,
the reason she doesn't want to switch it is because that's how I got on the electric in my name the first time, because she owes the electric company like $3,000.
Oh,
that's why she doesn't want.
You would think that she would rather quickly say, "Dear, come and get your stove. Thanks for the energy."
Do you have
get out of my life? Let's move on.
Right? Is there anything that obligates you to continue keeping your name on this unit, this house?
If I turn off the electricity, I'll have to say goodbye to my stuff.
That's his last card, I think. That's the only thing he's got, Dave.
You guys are just as a standoff here.
Oh, love. Love is just...
Listen, do you know how I am about certified letters? I'd send a certified letter to say I plan to do it, because you can't. This is costing you every month. And so she's basically holding your stuff hostage.
Basically.
And in return for the right to hold your stuff, you're paying her electrical bill. You're getting screwed.
Well, she's paying it, so that's a good thing.
Okay.
Oh, she is.
She's paying it, but it's under his name because she owes them money. I mean, I would just, registered letter saying, "Hey, I'm going to stop this unless I get my stuff."
We need to get, it's clear that we've got this messy relationship right now, and we're too integrated into each other's lives. It doesn't work for me to be on the electrical bill anymore. I need to move on. And so I'm
going to wind up like her, having a big old electric bill.
Yeah. Well, no, because if you do the end of service, then there won't be a bill at all.
Yeah.
So as long as she's current, you shouldn't be out of pocket much.
She is. I'm just waiting for her to pay her next payment, and then I can do it.
Okay.
It might be worth just getting rid of that stove. What's the charge of stove mapping?
Well, by the way, this is a separate issue. Sorry, we're kind of getting in the weeds here on another issue. You have the right to your stuff, and so I would again put her on notice that you would like to collect your stuff, and then there are certain civil claims or criminal claims. You could argue that this is theft. You can get the police involved. That she's holding on to your stuff.
And how much is the stove worth? You said about $5,000.
Yeah, it's an antique.
So it's worth. Well,
I want to put it in my cabin in the mountains.
It makes sense.
I want to hang out with this guy, Mr. X, in his cabin in the mountains.
Well,
I'm still fishing.
Yeah, I know. You could. I don't know how much the other sentimental stuff is worth, but you could. If you're under the $7,500 threshold, you can file a claim.
Is that where
for conversion in small claims court? Yeah, there are certain things you can do, and you can involve the police in this too. They may not take it very seriously right now, or maybe back burner stuff.
But if he's a big enough pain in the ass, maybe she'll finally say, "Come and get your stupid stove and leave me alone."
Yeah,
that's the ideal end, right?
Thank you for listening to the Law Frog Radio Show with David McDivitt and Ross Ford on Kilo 94.3 FM, presented by McDivitt Law Firm.